In an NBA rich with unprecedented skill and talent of all ages, coming out of one of the strongest draft classes of this century, Alperen Sengun has managed to grab the attention of the entire league. Back in December, Nikola Jokic called out his stellar play and said the Rockets should run their offense through him more, and in recent weeks, Anthony Edwards has said that Sengun is the player the Timberwolves were keyed in on stopping when they played Houston. And his production recently has legitimized that praise. He's averaging roughly 19, 10, and 6 in January on elite efficiency and has been particularly exceptional over his last 4 outings, scoring nearly 25 a night. Not bad for a 20-year-old who was picked outside the lottery. But as the hype and comparisons swirl, how good exactly is Sengun? Is he really the Rockets' best asset? Is he the next star passing big man in an ever-evolving league? And how much will defensive issues hold him back? Let's start on the offensive end, where Sengun shines. He gets a ton of hype for his passing ability, and deservedly so, but at this stage, I think Sengun's best ability is his interior scoring skill. Sengun is an artist as a paint scorer, and his favorite instrument is the spin move. He loves using spins to get by bigs out of the post or to shake defenders coming downhill as a driver, and his balance and ability to finish in a controlled fashion out of spins is elite. He also loves to just pirouette out of the post to create a bit of space to get to his opposite shoulder for his signature hook shot, which he hits with devastating 58% efficiency. Sengun's ability to absorb contact and then spin into that hook allows him to create a great shot basically at will, and it's a hugely important counter for him against bigger defenders who he is not afraid to attack out of the post. That same touch finishing that makes his hook so great is also crucial for Sengun as a roll man, where he's no vertical threat but can punish drop coverage with his floater, which isn't super fluid or pretty necessarily, but that he's hit at a nearly 49% clip this year, which is much better than last season. Sengun can move people out of the post too. He's a strong guy at 6'9", 235, and is really good at using leverage to his advantage, so it's not uncommon to see him back his way down right under the bucket and then put up a little short touch shot quickly over his shoulder. At the same time, he's skilled at getting around bigs out of the post, as he's quicker than most turning the corner and does a really good job of hooking his arm around defenders or using an armbar to give himself an edge, usually without getting whistled. Meanwhile, he's got a real knack for drawing fouls. He's effective at catching slower-footed bigs out of position, and he sells contact well. His ability to decelerate is also a weapon there when he's attacking as a driver. He can slow down dramatically and force recovering defenders to make illegal contact and often still finish through it with his touch. The guy is just a tough cover, and his overall mastery of post footwork and fakes is really tricky to keep up with. Even though you know he's pretty much either going to spin around you or get to a hook, he can bust out a whole lot of moves to get you going the wrong direction in the process and then quickly finish. Sengun can initiate from the perimeter. He can get by bigs with his pretty solid handle. Not advanced, not totally refined, but good for a young big, but ultimately, he is going to score inside. And his interior scoring is really impressive. He can struggle to finish against big bigs, your 7-foot stout, long kind of guys, because he doesn't have the vertical athleticism to challenge them and he can't overpower them, so he can be stonewalled there, but he does still often create space to get to those short-range touch shots. The biggest concern about Sengun's scoring, in my eyes, is his jump shot. He's been better in this hot streak, but he's made just over 27% of his career jump shots, excluding floaters, and is 26% from deep in his career. He's already a very effective scorer, but if he can keep defenses honest from deep, be a respectable pick and pop threat, someone guys need to close out on, it would add a valuable dimension to his game. But, of course, what makes Sengun even more special offensively and capable of elevating an entire unit is his passing. Sengun is an exciting passer with tremendous creativity there that makes for some insane highlights. But he can thrive in the more mundane, yet important passing categories too, especially running handoffs where he's been a machine for Houston, creating space for his guards either to knock down jumpers or to get an angle to attack downhill. He's good at targeting cutters out of give-and-go situations and has had some nice moments facilitating off the short roll, and I think we'll see him continue to do more of those things as his role in the offense has expanded. When he's posting up or clearly drawing help, Sengun has good awareness of finding shooters and is particularly strong at delivering drop-off passes to cutters, sometimes right out of a spin move. He's a very willing passer and is generally pretty accurate, but definitely isn't quite as refined as, say, a Sabonis, nor should he be at 20 years old. He can make some mistakes by trying to force flashy deliveries, but I think the area Sengun can improve most as a passer is in anticipating and dissecting double teams. Specifically, he loves that spin move, and sometimes a second defender will just sit right on it and Sengun will spin right into the double and get tripped up, sometimes still forcing an attempt or taking longer than he should to read the floor and try to find the open man, although I will say his teammates don't always do a great job of making themselves available as targets, which is pretty important to maximizing the impact of a great passing big. Bottom line, Sengun should be able to fill a Sabonis-esque role offensively, maybe as a slightly better scorer, and we'll see if he can achieve the same passing polish. He should be a post-scoring and playmaking hub who can have solid success as a roll man, orchestrate offense out of handoffs, and legitimately elevate his team on that end. And this year, he already has to some extent. When Sengun is off the floor, the Rockets have a disgusting offensive rating of 105.6, which would be the worst in the NBA by 4 points. When he plays, their offensive rating is 112.9. Subpar, but respectable. So, I legitimately think he should be a top 3 passing big in the NBA and have actual star value offensively. He's sick, he's fun to watch, and that's a hell of a thing to be saying about a former 16th pick in year 2. Here's the catch. Sengun isn't just bad defensively. I'd argue he might be the hardest starting center in the league to build a good defense around. Let's just start by looking at the physical tools. Sengun is 6'9", small for a center, but something that could be compensated for with length, switchability, and vertical athleticism. Sengun is not particularly long though. His 7-foot wingspan is below average for a 5. He also pretty much never switches. He's a poor lateral mover, so the Rockets almost always have him drop out of pick and roll. Typically, you would want a real big guy in that drop role who can contest floaters with his length, take up tons of room to disincentivize looks around the rim, and challenge them effectively when people do dare. And Sengun doesn't check any of those boxes. He's small, not a good vertical athlete, and not long. Beyond that, I think he tends to play too low out of drop and does not do a good job of stepping up to contest floaters and mid-range pull-ups, and great pull-up jump shooting guards and pick and pop bigs can incinerate Sengun accordingly. Like clockwork, you know what shots are going to be on the table when you're running pick and roll against Sengun, and you know they'll probably be open. So, athletic limitations pretty much seal Sengun's ceiling defensively, but he doesn't understand how to defend either. He is highly susceptible to fakes. Fake handoffs, head fakes, pump fakes. If you throw one at Sengun, he'll probably bite. Overall, he's just undisciplined, averaging 4.4 fouls per 36 minutes. He's often late to close out on pick and poppers and is undisciplined there, making him easy to blow by, and he has no real recovery ability, and his overall processing, positioning, and instincts are just not good. I think we can see a lot of that in this play here. Before Schroeder has engaged with the screen or committed to either direction at all, Sengun is planted outside the screener, flat-footed. Meanwhile, Jabari Smith is playing some intense defense and is trying to make it tough for Schroeder to even get to the screen. So, given Sengun's excessive and premature positioning, Schroeder is left with an easy runway to his strong hand by rejecting the screen. Once Schroeder chooses that path, Sengun is very slow to process it and turn his body to physically react and can ultimately do nothing. That's poor processing, positioning, effort, and athleticism all on display. And I don't want to harp on effort for a young guy in a defensive environment as pathetic as Houston's, but Sengun has his pretty poor moments there. So, all in all, he's an undersized, poor vertical and lateral athlete who can't switch, but offers little resistance at the rim and is at this point a low IQ defender. We're not looking at a Sabonis here who's bigger, smarter, and moves better, and is still mediocre defensively. Sengun is a disaster. He's a bad defender in every way there is to be a bad defender. That's not to say he can't improve, but even the ceiling is low. And unfortunately, he happens to play the position where defense matters the most. So, what does that mean for Sengun? Well, I still like him a lot. It's a given that he'll be really good offensively and maybe even a star there. So I think the key to his career in some ways will be limiting how much he hurts you defensively, because it's just so hard to contend with a real defensive liability at center. And maybe that seems like an absurd way to be looking at a guy who's so young, but I feel like it's a reflection of how highly I already view his offensive game. I expect him to be a star there or close to it, so I can't help but hold him to a future star standard when we're talking about all-around winning impact. And I do think he'll elevate offenses as long as he's around, and I obviously love all the dimensions a great passing big can add to an offense. I just talked about it with Sabonis, but I am worried about the defense. Regardless, this is an exciting, really talented young player on a young core that is, sure, mismanaged and currently incapable of winning basketball games, but could be pretty absurdly loaded with talent if they land another top pick in this year's draft. And for all the frustration there's been with Stephen Silas's coaching and Sengun's underutilization for stretches of this year, he's 4th in the league in front court touches over the last 10 games. He's getting star volume now, and he's making the most of it on offense. And long term, I don't exactly consider Silas a threat to Sengun's success because he's not going to be around. So for now, enjoy watching this man cook and continue to grow because he sure is fun. To those of you who have made it this far, as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. And if you have, the good news is there's plenty more Nerd Sesh content. Go follow us on TikTok. We're coming out with trivia stuff there all the time across social platforms, Twitter, Instagram, to catch some clips from our podcast. And go listen to that podcast across audio platforms. Please join our Discord, too, to be part of our community and talk with us about sports whenever. The links for all that will be in the description. And also, check out Thrive Fantasy. You can get some pretty insane promos as a new user there. Like, for example, tonight, you bet on Giannis scoring 1 point. You can throw that into any parlay with even odds this weekend. Patrick Mahomes, 1 yard, any parlay, even odds. It's a really fun way to bet props with better odds than you're going to get at any book. So go ahead, sign up for that at the link in our description. And with that, as always, appreciate you guys. Peace.